Hey, Paul Mauro, Smart Financial. This is the end of January in 2025, and I think it's time for me to do a comprehensive overview of the Trump effect and how it's going to affect your money, your investing, your taxes, your Social Security, a lot of different things here in America. I think we waited for some of the smoke to clear after the election, so we can kind of see what things are really going to happen. So this is going to be a bit longer than normal video for us because I would like to cram a lot in here, and I'm not going to bother you with all of our contact info until the end, because I think let's focus on the information at the end. If you want to reach out to us, you'll have all the opportunities to do that. So let's start right from the top. Normally after an election, there is a thing called a post-election relief rally where the stock market and everybody in America just says, oh, thank God, I have my television back. I don't have to listen to this stuff all day on the radio. And everybody kind of goes back to the business of living their daily lives. I think that we had a little bit of that for sure. And that's, it's a good thing. We all made some money in the stock market. But I would like to say that the Trump effect is almost exactly the same as every other, administration. Now, this is not going to be a political video. This happens to just be about you and your money. But I would say the results of the last 4 years, if you measure it by the results in the S&P 500, the U.S. stock market, whatever gauge you want to use, it's been really great. I mean, you've made about 85%. If you're an index investor who buys just, a stock ETF or index fund, you made a lot of money the last 4 years, and that's good. And I'm going to kind of talk about some of the things that we see going forward. Of course, there's a lot of guessing going on here. Some things are fact, and some are basically what we call economic projections. So let's just kind of take it from the top first. Let's just talk about the U.S. stock market. I think the next 4 years, and certainly the next 2 years, probably going to be very, very favorable for U.S. Investing. And the reason is going to be favorable for U.S. stock companies, U.S. public companies especially, and those are the ones that you can invest in. Why? Well, there's a few big reasons. Number one, corporations love it when somebody says they're going to reduce their corporate tax rate. And I think you've heard a lot of that. Lower taxes to them means more money. Whether that money ever does the famous trickle down or not is a subject of another sort of video, but for our purposes, if you're a stock investor in a company that makes more money and the stock gets more profitable, you win out too. This is the classic Warren Buffett story. You buy a good company, the company prospers, and so your portfolio prospers. So I do think for the next few years, especially with the focus of this administration, that focusing on U.S.-based companies and investing in the stock market in the United States will probably be a good idea for you. Now, of course, I have to give you my disclaimer. I was in private practice for 50 years, advising people. Now I advise primarily advisors and do some of this education stuff. Before you go out and buy, sell, invest, or do it, please meet and take the advice of a personal financial advisor about your situation, right? And when I refer to taxes, talk to your own accountant. And at the end of this, little video, if you want to be put in touch with one of our smart financial advisors that are associated with us, around the country, we're happy to do that. But for general investing, think, right? U.S. good, I think, for the next few years. Less regulation is also going to be a big, big tailwind. You're going to see more IPOs, more mergers and acquisitions. In fact, according to a recent report, I have to quote the number. I have it right here in front of me. Ready? There's $2 trillion on the sideline in private equity waiting to be invested, and they're waiting for regulations to be streamlined. I mean, to get things through the U.S. government takes a long time. There's a lot of people. It's a big bureaucracy. It's taken us a couple hundred years to build it up to this. And if you've ever tried to get yourself through the Medicare system, Social Security system, or anything else, it's a nightmare. Now, I've been in business for like 50 years, and I will tell you what, I am no fan of overregulation. We were quadruply regulated by state and federal governments, and we were always in fights with them for years. Let me just say, the lack of regulation is going to be a big boon for business. Clearly, also, we are in a pay-to-play politics situation now in America. It's not subtle anymore. It's not under the table. It's not in a back room. When the president of the United States can stand up and say to the oil industry, give me $1 billion, help me get elected, and I'll give you all the deregulation you want, that's pretty non-subtle, or whatever you want to call it. So we are in clearly a pay-to-play economic environment. So, as an investor, as a person who's aware, you should pay attention to the companies and industries which this particular administration favors. I don't know what your personal preferences are on environmental, social, and governance things. I think they're going to have a hard time. ESG investing will probably take a back seat to pro-oil, as an example, pro-carbon emitting companies, things like that. So from an investing standpoint, go with the flow. Don't swim upstream. If you want to take a moral stand and lose money, that's fine. That's your call. I do think that this is going to be a very favorable couple of years for the stock market in companies that are favored by this administration. Okay? So going to be a couple of good years for investing. Okay, let's talk about taxes. Taxes. I think the likelihood of the Trump Tax Act, which has a long fancy name, tax and something or other, well, it's going to get extended because we have a Republican president, Republican senator, Republican Congress. So highly likely those Trump tax breaks will be extended regardless of the fact that they added trillions of dollars to the deficit that were supposed to expire. Okay, that's another topic. But as far as the Trump Tax Act is concerned, very, very favorable if you are super affluent. If your family has a lot of assets, you want to leave them to your kids, the estate tax deduction, that means the amount you can leave to your family without paying any taxes, is $11.8 million per person and about $23 million per couple. So an affluent couple who's got a boatload of money can leave a lot of money to their family without paying taxes. It used to be much less. Okay, that's a good thing for them. God bless them. They have a lot of money and they want to leave it to their family. That's really good. Okay, now the upshot of that will be, however, we used to have a thing called revenue sharing, in which every time the federal government collected a death tax or an estate tax, there was a thing called a sponge tax, and the sponge shot back to the states, so the states shared in the revenue. Okay, that's gone. So what's the result of that? There's about 17 states that are imposing state death and state inheritance tax. Okay, so this is really a big topic, and it will probably affect some people deciding on where they're going to live. Now we don't think about dying all the time. We kind of think about living. So a lot of folks focus more on income taxes. But let's be sort of specific in this particular area. In the Trump Tax Act, again, very favorable for high-income people. Not really going to have much of an effect on low-income people, but I think it could be a negative spin if you live in a state like New Jersey, Massachusetts, and others that are imposing state death taxes to make up the revenue difference. They're trying to fill that donut hole that's missing of money. All right, so income taxes. Talk to your CPA, consult with your tax charts. It's very clear. There's a wonderful big agency. I have to quote their name accurately too and give them credit. It is called the Institute of Taxation and Economic Policy. Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, they did a big study. Super clear, right? If you're over 500,000 of taxable income, your tax rate is going to go down by 1.7%. If you're under $500,000 of income, basically your income tax rate goes up by 1.7%, right? So this is not a middle-class tax cut. This is actually an affluent tax cut. So again, less income for people who own big corporations, less income tax, less regulation for big corporations, less taxes on affluent estates. This is a very pro-affluent person administration. Okay, so now let's talk about tariffs, which is really kind of like a hidden tax. So a big analysis was done on tariffs. Everybody understands it now. Let me explain it again. A tariff is essentially a tax imposed on an importer of material. So let's just say you're importing a $500 computer from another company and you're going to sell it locally in this town, right? If you import it, you pay $500, it goes out to the consumer, they mark it up by 20% and they make their profit. Okay. Now, if the tariff is charged to, say, China, Mexico, or Canada, and as of today when I'm giving you this, it looks like those are the three that will get hit with tariffs. That money is paid by the importer. So it comes in, there's a $500 computer, now it's $550. That money gets passed right along to you in the purchase price. So even the president has just admitted that tariffs will add to the cost of everything in America. Yeah, no kidding, we all knew that, right? So tariff is a hidden tax. actually it's going to impact the middle class more than everybody else. This is another one of those things. We call it a regressive tax. That means the tax hit is higher as your income gets lower. If someone's making $1 million a year, they pay an extra $500 for that computer. It's like irrelevant to them. That's the amount of money they lose in their couch watching the football game. However, if you're a middle class family in America and your family income is $82,000, well, that extra $500 for that computer is a meaningful hit. So, according to all the tax analysis and tariff analysis, it is going to add about $1,700 to the actual cost of living for every American again, that's the median income of about $86,000 per family. Okay, so it's a hidden tax called a tariff. There may be some other good reasons to do it. I'm not going to get into that now, but the whole point behind this discussion is how this new Trump administration is going to affect you. So yes, you will pay more if your coffee beans come from Brazil, and you will pay more if the butter you imports from Europe, and you will pay more if you happen to things from Canada. I have a half Canadian family. I'm hearing a lot about this right now, and I think that every country who manufactures things likes to put their own label on it. And let's use cars for an example. If a car is built in Houston, Texas, right, and you want to buy it in America, that all sounds great, except all the parts from that car come from Mexico, Canada, and other countries. Do you know how many chips are in a car right now? My brother, the retired car engineer, says there's something like 3,000 chips, right? Where do those chips come from? They don't come from America. They come from China, right? So it's going to add about $3,000 to the cost of an average pickup truck. Okay, now, I'm not suggesting you run out and buy new pickups, but I would say in our family, some of the kids have recently bought their new cars because they're buying them ahead of this potential extra tariff tax built into the cost of building things. I might say, built in America, yep, they assembled it like a Lego toy, but all the little bits came from other places, okay? That's the reality of this. So we talked about taxes, we talked about tariffs, we talked about investing. Let's talk about Social Security, right? So Social Security is a big issue. 71 million people collecting Social Security. I happen to be in that category. And let me just say, it's a wonderful program. It's been around since 1935. Most certainly it needs some modifications and it needs some improvements and it needs to be brought up to date. As the Stanford study on longevity says, which is a lot quoted many times in my second book coming out on longevity, we shouldn't be operating in 2025 in a system that was built in 1935. We don't have 80-year-old air conditioners and vacuums and material things like that. We upgrade everything. Social Security needs a major upgrade. It's not hard to fix. There are a few things that have to be done, but right now Social Security is really, really tied in to this whole issue of immigration in America. Undocumented immigrants in America pay $1.9 billion in taxes. They pay taxes into things like FICA, F-I-C-A, right? That goes into Social Security for money they will never collect. That goes into the pool that keeps Social Security running, right? Because undocumented people cannot collect Social Security. So guess what? The projections of Social Security expiring or getting into trouble at 2034 have now moved back to 2030 because the elimination of undocumented immigrant inflows of money will shorten the life of Social Security by 4 years. Okay, now I'm kind of in the Mike Bloomberg camp as far as practicality is concerned. Mike Bloomberg, this former mayor of New York, when this whole topic of immigration comes up, he's a pragmatist. He says if you just deport everybody in America, you can close every restaurant, hotel, the people who wash the dishes in the bottom of a hospital. I mean, they do a lot of what we call the triple D jobs. They're dirty, they're dangerous, they're dead-end jobs. Right? If you want to pay $30 for a tomato, then hire American people to pick your tomatoes. There's going to be a problem on that end. That's inflationary for sure. So immigration is probably going to add to the inflated cost of your goods, but also it's a major issue for Social Security. I think Social Security is a wonderful program. It should be preserved and protected. If they have to raise the amount that people pay over $170,000, so maybe people who earn $300,000 pay more FICA, that's a good idea. If they have to raise the tax from 12.5 to 15, that's a good idea. Whatever they have to do to preserve this social benefit, it's really important. It provides not just retirement income, it's a disability program for families when somebody gets disabled. It's a survivorship program for moms and babies if dad gets killed, coming home from work. It's a very expensive program to run. And I agree, it's a social welfare benefit program, but it is so vital to keeping our senior citizens out of poverty that we need to do whatever we need to do to preserve Social Security. So this administration is not particularly social welfare benefit conscious. It's much more corporate benefit conscious. That's just fact, right? So I thought it was shocking the other day. I actually saw some people from the administration on television doing speeches, and they didn't really understand the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, they're vastly different programs. Medicaid are benefits for the poor and people that are in nursing homes that can't pay, and it's a financially justified program. You have to be broke, basically, to get on Medicaid, right? Medicare is something that we've paid for our whole lives through doing our 40 quarters of Social Security, right? And we get this wonderful medical program, Medicare, that starts covering you at age 65 years old and on. So I have to say, in all my years of practice, we've never heard anybody complain about the way Medicare pays your bills. Now, you do have to buy supplements and all that stuff, and you have to pay attention to this, especially this year. Even before the annual enrollment period in October, you should pay big attention to which plan you have that mates up with your Social Security, because as of this week, the Trump administration has backed off on some of the improvements in Medicare paying for prescription drugs for seniors and things like that. So let's pay a lot of attention this year, 2025, if you're a retiree, to what your Medicare Advantage plan is, or your Medicare supplement plan, or your Medicare prescription drug plan. These are going to be important things for our senior citizens to pay attention to. If you're a young person. Now, I'm talking about Social Security, and I'm one of those lucky people that's collecting it, and I've been working, for many years of my life. But if you're in your 30s, I get the stress, I get the anxiety, and in fact, I do think a lot of data supports the fact that you should be concerned about Social Security, and you should take steps. As Teddy Roosevelt says, when you're presented with a problem, take action. Don't just sit there. Don't passive. Don't be a victim. If you're in the 30-something range, you should do everything you can to own a Social Security substitute. If you get Social Security, that's great. It might be more watered down. You might not be able to get it at 75. There's a lot of things that could happen if you're in your 30s. If you rely only on Social Security for your retirement, I think it's a big economic financial planning mistake. And by the way, it's also a mistake to wait until you're 65 years old to take charge of this problem. Let's take charge of it in your 30s. So if you're a young person, you need to be proactive. If you're an older person, I wouldn't worry so much about Social Security being there. I would worry more about the Medicare parts of Social Security. So it's really a bifurcated problem, all right? So young person, let's get proactive and do a Social Security substitute planning, okay? So that's like one more element of how the Trump administration will affect you. Now, we all know administrations only last 4 years. They come and go. Politics, winds blow back and forth. I can't predict the future. I'm not an expert on that, but I will tell you that you're better off if you take action and protect yourself than if you don't. Okay, so we talked about the investing, we talked about taxes, we talked about tariffs, we talked about Social Security. Let's talk about crypto. It's a crypto craze in America. It's a new day because just like when Nero came into power and he had coins printed with his name on it, well, guess what? Mr. Trump has launched his own Trump coin because he's very pro-crypto. I won't even guess about the social implications of that, but let me just say that if you are interested in crypto, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Solana, all these different types of blockchain and currency, it's probably going to be a boom couple of years in crypto investing. Right now, as I'm talking to you, one of the first Bitcoin ETF, exchange traded funds, came out by Calamos Investing. Now, you're going to see a flood of crypto products in the next couple of years. You're going to see reduced regulation. They've been trying to get crypto into our mainstream, but they were stopped by the Securities and Exchange Commission because they couldn't decide, was this an investment or a currency, right? Should it be regulated? Should it be not regulated? Okay. I think all that dust is going to clear. Under this administration, they are going to, again, reduce regulation, reduce the time to get through government, and get a lot of crypto product into our lives. Okay, I don't think it's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just what it is, right? I do think that there's a place for blockchain. There's a place for cryptocurrencies. It's what we call one of the alternative stores of money. It's like the picture behind me. Some people that are affluent, they buy, a Gauguin to store $40 million in. Or real estate, that's an alternative investment. You can buy some piece of property for $40 million to store your money there. Right? You can buy gold. You can have, I have a friend who shows up with bags of silver and bags of gold coins. Those are what we call alternatives. In every portfolio, by the way, every portfolio manager will suggest to you that you should probably have 5% of your portfolio in a thing called alts or alternatives. That just means something alternative to stocks, bonds, and cash. So it's a 5% allocation, and it can be the things that you like the most. My preference is for real estate things. But, if you are interested in crypto, we are in a crypto crazy time. It's going to be wild to watch. There'll be some entertainment for those of us that are not, plunking our money down and taking our risk in the crypto casino, as it's been called by Warren Buffett and his famous partner. I do think that crypto is not like buying a company that produces a product, and it's not like investing in real estate where you can see it. It's a very, very different kind of investment. Now, I will talk about the federal regulation issue. So as I'm talking to you, there's a lot of tragic things going on in America right now, and the government is trying to do something they've been trying to do for 200 years. Streamline government, reduce the delay in federal agencies, get things through the system faster, save money. I'm a big believer in all that. That sounds great, to be more efficient. But a lot of the agencies that start with F, the Federal Administration, the Federal FAA, Federal Housing Authority, all this kind of thing, FEMA, anything that starts with an F, we have come to depend on, and sometimes they're very, very important. Right now, we have a tragic situation going on in California. There's going to be a lot of need for fire relief. FEMA is in there cleaning up. They're going to provide funds. This stuff's really important. It doesn't sound important until you have a disaster, then it becomes very important. Right now, we've just had, if you've been following the news, a horrible crash in Washington. There are a lot of people going to point the fingers at the FAA, the Federal Administration, the traffic controllers who are grossly overworked. They're understaffed. I do believe we need some federal agencies to protect us. I want to know when I go to the supermarket and buy something that the Food and Drug Administration has taken some steps to make sure that everything inside that bottle isn't fake. Okay? We went through this with the drug and the aspirin issue over the years. I do think streamlining is good. However, this is more like my friends in Colorado, where we spend some time. When they talk about butchering a cow or other animal for that matter, right? It's a good idea to cut the fat, but let's not throw away the beef. Okay? It's really important to do this kind of cutting with a scalpel, not a chainsaw. It's really kind of important that we can try to make government more efficient and yet preserve some of the super important things that are important to us. Okay? So I do think we're going to go through a craze. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if they're going to have some bumps in the road. We're going to have maybe some failures, some missteps. But I do like the idea of our federal employees not having to worry about losing their job every day and focusing their attention on things like fire relief, flood relief in Florida, airplanes not crashing into each other and everything. So distracting critical employees is probably not healthy in any business. So let's see if we can keep everybody on track and moving forward. So we've talked about this summary. How investing is going to affect you? Probably going to be a great year for U.S. markets. Taxes, you can't do a lot about it. It's what it is. They're going to pass it. If you're super affluent, you're going to be cheering all the way to the bank. If you're a middle-class person, you're going to pay a little bit more in taxes. Tariffs, that is also going to hit the middle class, not the upper class. They're just going to sail right through it. Social Security, plan ahead, plan ahead, plan ahead. Wonderful program. If you're young, yes, you should do some pre-planning. If you're older, I wouldn't have too much stress about it. I would pay attention, though, to these changes that are going to extend the life of Social Security. Crypto, if you like it, buy it. Have a great time. It's going to be, as I said, a crypto craze in America. And as far as the federal efficiency is concerned, let's all keep our fingers crossed on this. This is one of the areas where it's got the best of intentions. And let's hope that the people that are doing this great efficiency consulting are able to provide awesome services to us and save us all a little bit of our tax dollars, okay? So I'm Paul Mauro. This is Smart Financial. I'm going to encourage you, if you have questions about this, to reach out to us. You can do it on our YouTube channel, on our blogs, go to our website. By all means, hit us up, give us a subscribe on these YouTubes. Like us on Facebook and all that. And if you can't attend one of our upcoming meetings, we're doing live in-person meetings. We've had a great time in Massachusetts. I've been signing some copies of the book I wrote on smart financial grandparenting. I have the manuscript for the smart financial longevity in my hand. We're approving it now. It should be out in February. And we'll be doing book signings and all that throughout New England over the next year. And if you contact us, we're going to have a nice regular schedule of webinars where we can do some Q&A and you can actually ask some live chat questions and all that. I look forward to helping you with financial things. And if you need to be put in touch with a smart financial advisor who knows how to handle some of the topics we're talking about, we're happy to do that. I'll see you again next time on Smart Financial.